Well, welcome to the Finance and Management meeting of the Parish Council. I'm the Vice Chair, so Pat, unfortunately, the Chair who was due to be chairing this meeting today and hoped to do up until about an hour ago, won't be able to get here because of transport issues getting back from Liverpool. So we start the meeting with public question time. So, Mike, it might be best to use this just to talk about your project. You've got up to 3 minutes. And then we'll go through some business, and then you can stay, if you wish, where we discuss the actual application itself. But the question time is a bit of a one-way thing. We can't really engage in a full conversation with you, but we might have further questions to ask you, if that makes sense. So if you want to tell us about...
all the community centre was... it used to be the old village school, which closed down in, I think, 1976, when they built the new one down in Newville. So a group of us got together. I've been involved since it started in 78. So in 78, a group of us got together, we formed Bulldale Community Association, met with Kirklees. We got a 25-year lease, whereby the rent was nominal and Kirklees basically paid for all the major running expenses like repairs. They didn't pay for the staff salaries and they didn't pay for things like heating and lighting, but if the building needed work, Kirklees Council would pay for it.
Yeah.
Then Kirklees Council obviously ran into problems of funding, and we were faced in 2017 with either a rent of £8,500 a year, and we paid for all the maintenance costs, or we went through an asset transfer, you know, like the parish council contract. So we went through the the asset transfer, which occurred in February 2017, and since that day, every penny that needs spending on the building is paid for. You know, the staff salaries and repairs and all that sort of thing. So, project we're looking at now is to replace the two aging 30-year-old boilers which Kirklees put in many, many years ago with two modern, still gas burning unfortunately, because the advice from Kirklees Council is that heat pumps just wouldn't work in our building. So unfortunately it's having to go to gas. And we estimate it will save probably about 40% of our current gas bill, which is about £2,000, but we're on a fixed contract at the moment, and that gas is likely to up to at least 4,000, possibly 8,000, depending on what the government do in January next year.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, we've got maintenance costs of probably about £1,000 a year on the existing boilers.
Okay. Well, I'm sure, I don't know about Rachel, I mean now you're familiar with the building, I guess. Rachel,
Yeah.
now as well. Sorry, you've got here tonight, you've got Richard's deputy clerk, James the clerk, and then we've got Mary Blacker and Councillor Rachel Hobley. So, I'm trying to think how we best, well, some questions I've got, but are we best asking, looking for?
I think best work through the sort of, you know, housekeeping stuff, apologies and stuff like that, and then move in.
Because we have already had some thoughts about how this might be funded. Okay, so in terms of the agenda proper, so we're just going to run through some formal business. So the first thing we need to talk about is the, I've never chosen one of it before, and there's quite a lot of process. So this meeting, oh well, look, basically the first item 59 is basically to ask if anybody wants to record the meeting. We record it anyway on our own video and put those up on YouTube. Is there anybody else wants to record or any of this? No? Apologies for absence, as is now the protocol. Well, these are circulated before the meeting. We've got apologies from 4 councillors, I believe.
Oh, 5 now.
5 with Councillor Pat Collins. People won't have seen, I've already said what Pat's issue is, she's stuck in public transport. Yeah. So are people happy with the apologies we've received and the reasons given? Yeah. Thank you very much. Next item's about members and officers' personal and disclosable pecuniary interests in items on the agenda, and I know there are some.
Yes, I need to declare an interest in item 222366, which are the grants. So numbers 14 which I've gone further forward, as long as direction gone further forward.
So that's a pecuniary interest then. And I'm not necessarily declaring a disclosable pecuniary interest, but I have got background knowledge through a number of these organisations through my day job, as I had with the Service Provision Committee, so I may bring some of that to the fore, but I'm not a trustee on any of these groups, I'm not a paid worker on any of these groups, so I think I'm still allowed to fully participate in the vote as well.
Yep.
Okay, is there any written requests for new DBI dispensations? Nothing coming. Next item, whether we discuss anything in private. I thought we'd discuss the issue, item 69 about tenancies.
Yep.
Is there any other issues that need to be discussed in private? What that means might be
fine.
Sometimes we're talking about people
Yeah.
that might be about their personal interests. And the minutes of the last meeting, so we last met on 22nd of August, minutes have been circulated. Can anybody approve those as a correct record?
Yeah.
Mary, seconded. Yeah, I'll happy with that. Okay, so now we move on to the main item, really.
So you do the
We've got the
grants,
grants,
do the grants.
So we've got a table that
Yeah,
Richard
do that first.
sent,
It's just a note, basically.
and this is a list of all the things that have been funded in the past. And on the electronic copy, it's coloured in yellow. Is there anything anybody wants to? This is just a record of decisions made, which is that right?
Well, the yellow ones here are ones that we're doing tonight, basically. These ones in white are the ones we've awarded earlier this year, and there are one I'm going to award earlier than that. But no, this is just this year and this year pending, basically.
Right. And is it this document that's got effectively the balance?
Yeah.
I did speak to.
So it's slightly confusing, I'm sure, for everybody that the balance is at the top rather than the bottom. It's working upwards rather than downwards. It meant it easier to post to Facebook if the more up-to-date awards were at the top. So the project and events budget's got 19,800 in it, and the other community assets budget has got 48,000 in it.
So those are the budget lines we're spending against tonight. Okay.
Can I just say, I think this is really useful. I think there's kind of useful.
Okay, thanks for that, Rich. So we're going to work through the grant decisions now, but we're going to bring forward the ninth one, which is the application from Broadbelt Community Association for up to £5,000 towards the replacement of the 2 boilers. Can I propose that we suspend standing orders at this point so we can ask Mike any direct questions? Yeah, I'd be happy with that. One question I've got is, we're going through a very similar situation with this building now, and it's horrifying, the cost of replacing boilers, as you have discovered. When you say you've had advice from Kirklees about the boilers?
Yes, when we realised that the energy costs were going to spiral, we contacted the people at Kirklees that we normally deal with. Forget the guy's name, but we deal with them all the time. You know, they come and repair our boilers, but obviously the charges for us. But we found in our dealings with Kirklees is because the building they used to, so all their engineers know our systems back and forward. So there's no point getting outside contractors in, even if you could get them cheaper, because it might do it cheaper, because it might have twice as long to do it. So he came along and he said, unfortunately, Kirklees now don't do work for other than council property.
Yeah.
So he gave me the name of the people that they recommend everybody to go to, and that is Grease Mechanical Services. We came down, had a look and said, this is what you need, and it's going to cost you £43,000 plus VAT at current costs. Obviously the work's not going to be done until next, when the school holidays are next summer.
Right.
We got another quote from another contractor that was £45,000.
Right.
But at this stage, we don't know who we would go to. But looking at the Greens Mechanical Service, it's quite a detailed quote. You know, they're the experts, and they're the company that Kirklees do work for in Kirklees. You know, they're the guys who came along and talked to us about.
We have sought two independent quotes, that's what I was clarifying with.
Oh yeah, and we spoke to them all about, well, why don't we put heat pumps in instead of gas? And they said Kirklees are currently not putting heat pumps in any commercial building, you know, like community centre. They do it in houses, but they're not putting it in because we'd have to lower the roof. We've got high ceilings. To make it more efficient, we'd have to insulate the walls, we'd have to change all the central heating system, so you're probably talking hundreds of thousands of pounds to do all that.
I wouldn't say I'm an expert on this, but I would definitely get an opinion from somebody who actually is a specialist in heat pumps, because, I mean, obviously the longer term savings, you've got a big site. I mean, there's issues here with heat pumps, partly because of listed building issues, but and they are changing all the time, and you know, the systems are changing all the time. I mean, you've also got the option of digging down as well as heat pumps, you know, externally, and you've got a big car park at the back. So I think I just think it'd be worth exploring possibilities, because that doesn't necessarily affect what we do tonight, because I think we need to discuss whether we want to give you £5,000 towards you fixing this problem. But I just think in the longer term, it's definitely worth getting professional advice from a heat pump expert.
Well, we did as I say, from Kirklees, the guy who does the heating for Kirklees, and he said it's 10 years before Kirklees will be putting heat pumps in the sort of building we've got. Not because you couldn't just take the gas boilers out and put the heat pump in. You would have to lower all the ceilings like you've probably got here. You know, the false ceilings in a lot of the rooms. And then, because a heat pump only gives you good effective heating when it's on all day, which houses not, you know, it's on different times of the day, it's not an effective heating system. Because you've got to put bigger radiators in, you've got to put all new pipe work in, you know, in a 178-year-old building.
Has anybody got any other questions, Mike? I mean, we need to discuss the actual steps.
So you just said, what you're asking for is less than a tenth, isn't it, of the total cost? Is that right? Total cost is 51,000. Yeah. So you said you're going to take 25,000 out of reserves. So how are you doing with the rest? Because that's still.
With the we're applying for the grants. We've just got £5,000 from the Bright Green. We're applying to the wind farm on Blackstone Edge. The problem with that one is you have to live within, your residents have to be within 5 kilometres of the wind farm, and out of our 300 regular users, only 9-10 live within, because it comes right through the middle of Fulldale. So half Fulldale's in, half Fulldale isn't. So we don't think we'll get that grant because we've only got 30% residents.
Can I just ask, obviously there's 2 boilers, and forgive my ignorance, but are you able to do one and then do the other, or is it all part of the same system?
It's all part of the same, and yes, you could put one boiler in, but then if it breaks down, you know, it's like from time to time, our boilers break down, but we've got a standby boiler.
So is there a main one and a backup one?
No, they're both the same,
right.
Except one comes on, switches off, and the other one comes on, switches off. If one's out of action, then the other one will be on all the time that the centre's in use. It's you know, we control the heating every day. It'll come on for twice, 3 times, none, depending on how we set the trench system.
So is that normal? Sorry, I'm not familiar with how boiler systems work in village halls. I hadn't realised that there's sort of a need for a backup in that sense. Albeit you say they take it in turns. I'm just wondering why there is the possibility to have a better quality individual boiler, but then
it would, but then as I say, if it breaks down with no heating in the building, so we've got all the different tents up in arms, You know, say, well, you know,
Well,
Why-
I was
why-
just thinking
why-
a brand new boiler, you don't expect it to break down. Clearly in
yeah,
25 years time it might do,
Mm.
but you would expect it to work. So, but presumably the cost isn't just a case of one boiler is half the cost and one boiler is the other, or is it?
no, it's all the pipe work. The pipe work will be more than the cost of the boilers. Also in all the existing pipe work. You know, the chimney's got to be relined. So it's quite a complicated thing, which I think really, I don't know if you've seen that, that's the quote from.
Okay, no.
Yeah, that tells you exactly why it's so expensive. Yeah, but it amazed us.
So is it new piping through the whole hall?
No, in the boiler house.
Right.
Yeah, there'll be new valves, some of the pipe work we can use, but some we can't. And then they've got to reassess whether or not the chimney is suitable, whether it has to be completely relined, you know, so we're now talking of getting cherry pickers in to see whether or not the chimney is suitable for it.
Sorry, can I just ask?
Yeah.
And in terms of, I know Douglas was touching on other efficiency measures. Have you been able to make any efficiency measures in terms of windows, insulation?
So
of
the
building?
windows are all over the place. The biggest problem is the height of the main hall.
Yeah.
You know, it's 30 foot high.
Yeah.
So this is again the problem with the heat, with the ground source heat pumps. You'd have to bring it down to about the height of this. You see, whereas ours at the moment is twice the height of this. So we do waste a lot of heat. There's no doubt about it. But that's a very expensive. Putting a false ceiling in as well. Then, if you went to putting all new radiators in, it's such a problem with heat. You see, the heat pumps, you have to have it on all day.
Yeah, no, I wasn't thinking of heat
Yeah,
pumps. I was
yeah,
just thinking
yeah.
of other means
That's the problem
keeping
with
the warmth
yeah,
in the building.
yeah.
rather than-
Which in a house, you've got, well, that's why Kirklees are putting them in houses, but they're not putting them in they're not putting them in any council building, I don't think.
Well, there's issues with, I mean, we need to move on, but there's both at Honley Library, which we're about to asset transfer to us and here, there's issues with both the heat systems and what council put in and then trying to swap it. I think there's 3 boilers in this building, and of which there's 2 that are in use at the moment. But the cost of changing it to newer stock is, as you say, much more complicated than just dropping a new boiler in.
Yeah.
And the other issues we've got in the same, it's exactly the same. We've got spaces which are really difficult to heat.
Yeah.
Because they were designed at a time when people were paying smart.
Well, I'd certainly recommend it to get a quote from Greaves.
Yeah.
As I said, they do a lot of work for Kirklees.
Well, in terms of the actual application itself, so if I speak, have a committee conversation, I'm happy to move back to unsuspending standing orders, so I'm back standing orders.
Okay.
Yeah. So in terms of the application itself, has anybody got any concerns or on the application as it's written and the request? Just looking in principle support or issues?
Well,
with,
I'm happy with the writing of it, but what I was going to suggest is that it perhaps sits quite neatly with the Climate Emergency Committee budget for energy elements. So we've currently got a budget of £10,000 under a code of 4810, which I checked with Richard, haven't spent any, which we originally, that budget we've used for things like providing monies to the Civic Hall and the Honley Library, still earmarked now, to allow them to implement energy efficiency measures, which can include changing heating. In case of the Civic Hall, they're not using it for boilers. It doesn't really matter. It's about making the building more energy efficient. Obviously, a more efficient modern boiler is clearly more efficient than an old one. And my sense is that rather than that money sort of sitting in the climate emergency budget where we do not have the power to spend it as a committee, I would propose that we award a grant of up to £5,000, or recommend to the climate emergency committee that that grant is taken from that fund. Obviously that would then have to be agreed by climate emergency next week, so then go to full council council formal approval to the thing, because they had to move it from one budget line to another. But it seems a very sensible way to support a community asset, and I know we'll do our community hall well. I'm taking my children there with a very small, very thing with party there and stuff in class. I think it'd be a great shame actually if you had an artificial ceiling in the future one day, because it's it's one of the appeals of village halls, isn't it? But I think it's a good investment in a community asset.
Yeah.
So that's very long-winded, but
I would stick at that proposal.
Yeah, I spoke to Rich on the phone earlier about, because I thought there was more pressure on this budget than there is, but in some ways, the less we can spend in this budget, we've still got money left later in the year.
yeah.
And if there's another way to use that, makes a lot of sense. I didn't have any, I think it's admirable that they've, in a fortunate position of having some reserves that they can put towards the costs of it. All the best with that. What I should have said, sorry, outside the meeting, I might try and get in touch with your team anyway, because my day job, I'm actually supporting community projects.
Yeah.
You're probably getting advice anyway about funding from other people, but
Yeah.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head other than where we've been. But so we're looking to support it, but we're not going to support it directly out of our budget.
Yeah.
We're going to refer it to another
Right.
committee with a recommendation.
That sounds fine. Thanks so much.
Is that right?
So I guess we
Yeah,
won't be
excellent.
the final outcome until afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be sometime after Tuesday the 11th that we'll be in touch.
So I'm assuming you're going to get
Get
through
it
the
when you
winter.
come round, just give us a bell.
I'm assuming it's still fit to use for now, it's just it's on its last legs.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, it breaks down and we get Curtis to come out and repair it.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thanks very much for your time.
Like I say, if anybody is looking for a new boiler, I would recommend it to them, that please recommend it to
Yes,
us.
we've got the quote in here. So.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank
you.
you. All the best. Okay. The next one, we've obviously got quite a few of these. I did speak to Rich about because I hadn't worked my way through the spreadsheet to realise what the balance was. But as I understand it, we've actually got more money than we've got grants. Because what I was going to propose is that we went through the morning order, looked for supporting principle, and then looked if we have enough money. But I think because we've got enough money, we can make an approval or a decline as we go through. So we're not overly concerned about the budget pressure. But there is a few issues with a number of these, as you will all be aware. So, let's move on to the next one.
So we go back fair and funky.
We're going back to fair and funky, which is the first one here.
Can I comment on this one?
Yeah.
This is one where part of me sort of think, what is it? Does this really fit with sort of supporting an ongoing local community charity, what the best word? And it's all about kind of engagement with schools, which is all lovely. But I didn't feel it stood up to quite the competition that perhaps there was for other grants in this fund. However, again, with the climate emergency committee hats on, there's an element of the climate emergency project which is about community mobilisation, it's about engaging with people, it's about informing them about educating and inspiring people, particularly young people, about how they can make a difference in the environment. And actually what Fair and Funky do is a lot of raising awareness with things like this, in terms of it's all very well having a kind of stand somewhere where you can get kids to read and notice about what they should be doing, but if you've got something active, even though I'm not convinced it's really like on the face of it actually does anything positive for the environment, it is an engaging, fun thing to do, and it brings people to have discussions and then talk about fair trade, to talk about recycling, to talk about helping the planet. And actually I think that's a really positive thing, because it's something active, and for that cost of £995 to allow Fair and Funky to be able to continue having those positive conversations with people across the community, I think it would be money well spent out of the climate emergencies budget 4805, which currently liaison with Deputy Clerk has enough funds to cover that, obviously subject to Climate Emergency Committee agreeing with this committee's recommendation.
Yeah. And just a general comment, I think we are discussing, as you're aware, on the working party on the grants, and one of the concerns I've got, and this is largely increasingly an issue the more I deal with community interest companies, they straddle a strange space between like small businesses really and proper charities, usually with few volunteers actually directly involved, and often all the directors taking a payment, but it does imply that only 2 of the directors are paid staff. And on smoothie bikes, I know there were always an issue within the authority. We'd had a few and they broke, but they were popular things, and I think as an engagement tool, at events and other things, they're useful. Arguably the benefit of liquidising foreign fruits, maybe it's the most environmentally friendly thing, but so if we're all happy with that, I think so. We're going to recommend that this is funded via the Climate Change Committee. Is that what you call yourself?
Yep.
Yeah.
Climate emergency.
Thanks very much, Rach, for that kind offer. I'm saying
Well,
that
I promise that I will do that. I think it's on Monday.
Okay. Should have been paid Rich. So Jen's still got a 0 spend on her spreadsheet.
It's not a spreadsheet, it's a piece of paper. But I'm ready.
Good enough.
See, that spreadsheet could show it on the wall and we could see count down how much money it's up. Right, so the next one, Paid Edge Band. I've got a couple of thoughts on this one. I don't think you can speak first.
Yeah.
My concern really was just about the massive amount of reserves that they were holding. Well, as of December 21, which seemed to be 3 times the turnover. I think one of the challenges we've got when we look at these figures, and we had the same thing with the service provision, that a lot of people have submitted accounts for COVID years, which isn't necessarily reflective of what their normal accounts are. But it does seem as if they're still actually quite a wealthy organisation, and as we know, they've been well supported by local sponsors as well in the past. That's not to say they don't need new uniforms, it's just a question for me about whether it's a priority for us to fund or whether they could fund it themselves. And I'm willing to be happy to be persuaded on that by people here.
Yeah, I sort of echo your concerns to an extent in terms of significant reserves. Also, they're asking for, was it £4,500, which is quite a slug of money for effectively. I wouldn't really call uniforms an asset as such. They are an important part, integral part of having an effective band, but in the end they will go to all the individuals, and they're not something you generally share around because obviously you need to fit the individuals who are playing the band. And I'm conscious that things like the grants we've given them in the past, I can't remember what the year is.
Yeah.
But the new piano, that was in part an opportunity for then the band hall to then be used again for exams, which must generate an income. Obviously, we get an income from rentals from people like ourselves who rent from it. And I'm not averse to giving them a small contribution, say in the region of £1,000 towards it, but my sense is that they really ought to seek potentially a sponsor for it, sponsor for the band. There needs to be some element of contribution from the individuals, I guess. I'm just a bit uncomfortable buying what feel like individual uniforms. I don't see that as a community asset, but I wouldn't be averse to giving them a £1,000 contribution towards the cost of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. Oh, sorry, Anna.
I was just going to say, I think we've got a sponsor to talk about responsible. I think feel exactly the same as you, and I think we've had a discussion about not buying instruments, say, so the different instruments and uniforms, really. So, and they have had a bit of money from us, haven't they? Not a huge amount, and they do have massive reserves. I mean, they're paying for reserves. So I would go with your suggestion about £1,000. Shall we?
Can I just ask Rich a question? They've actually tipped the community events and projects box, not the assets box. Is there a cap of
I mean, the trade.
on community events?
Yes, yeah.
Right, so in theory, by the box that they've ticked themselves,
It just didn't fit. It's another one of those that doesn't really fit any of the budgets. It doesn't. It's something we need to think about in the working group, really, about whether that's that's a different type of thing, because it's not an asset, is it? But it's not a project, because it's, you could have these uniforms for years. But I think the consideration of 1,000 is fair and sensible.
It's giving them a leg up, isn't it? But in the end,
Just seemed a lot of money for £280 a jacket.
well, they say they want to use cloth from Yorkshire, which is great. It's very smart jacket,
They do look good.
I'm sure they're artists.
So are we all of one mind then to support this for up to 1,000 limit? And we'll,
I also wonder whether we should remind them about it. I'm sure they know about it, but there's one community of a arts and cultural fund, which one would have thought they are still very aware of it.
yeah, to be honest, I don't know. There's quite a few. There's been a lot of money around this year at the moment because Kirklees itself has just got a special music year award from the Arts Council. So there may be all sorts
It
of
feels like it might be some music,
Yeah.
or arts, music funds that perhaps they could apply to. I don't know.
I know generally what's always been an issue, because I used to sit on Arts Council committees and they've never been, the traditional things like men's chorus, women's chorus societies and male voice choirs and brass bands have never, they don't seem to tick the boxes with some of the funders compared to more modern artistic expressions, shall we say. Which is a shame, but then equally, you know, these bands, some of them are quite wealthy, they do pay some of their players and their conductors, don't they? So anyway,
Can I just clarify, is 1,000 still coming from community assets, or are you going to take it out of projects?
well, they'd actually tick the project box, and because it's 1,000, I think it
I
makes
think
sense
it's
to take it out of the project. Sorry, Jack.
That makes perfect sense.
Okay, the next one we've got is from Hepworth United Football Club. I think this was the one which I was amazed at how many young people had got playing football.
This is amazing club. I mean, I haven't heard nothing normal to declare an interest really, but I've found them very, very inclusive and, you know, thoroughly in support of what they're asking for. I mean, there's a climate mitigation statement, which is quite lengthy. It's a very thorough application, unlike some of them. It's a very thorough application as well, so I'd be in favour of agreeing to pay the 5,000, but I know Rachel's got an idea where that should come from.
Just to echo, I mean, 250 young people, they're turning over 128 grand a year, they've only got 3 grand in reserves, you know, that's a phenomenal effort, and I thought it was a really good application, which I'd want to find a way to support, but I'm hopeful that Rachel might extend her offer.
Displace her large, yes.
I mean, I should mention that I know that in their, when they talk about other grants, they talk about Bright Green Fund. I know they've been partially successful in that, although actually they're getting less than what they've said, so they've got to £3,000. So that's just useful to know. They are getting some money from another source, but it wouldn't duplicate. Looking at their total of 9,400, it wouldn't duplicate what they would be receiving from the parish council. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that the club is a very key part of that part of the valley, if you like, and it's, I think it's great. It does, you know, it's not just football; it does netball as well. So it's really nice to see that it's, you know, it's very much a sports club rather than just about football. And they have been clearly very proactive in terms of securing the funding, part which was from Bright Green Kids just for the solar panels, and to have the batteries seems a really good step forwards. I suppose the only thing I'm conscious of is that it will have a huge benefit clearly on their running costs. So they would expect to get, I appreciate the costs of running everything going up for everything anyway. But I just wonder whether that means that, unlike, I suppose because they've got the solar panels and then they've got the batteries, it should mean that their running costs fall immensely, and therefore, particularly the clearly emergency budget is £2,000, which could be, which I think they could probably get from, well, speculating, but if they really get the energy benefits, then we thought they could do some fundraising within their club with that level of membership support.
So you're
So my
you're
proposal
basically-
recommends to the Climate Emergency Committee that they approve awarding £3,000 towards the purchase of the solar batteries from the Climate Emergency Standing Committee Code 4810, which is the one that we use for the boilers.
Yeah.
And then that would have to get approved, the VAR would have to get approved from the full council. But then if we leave the climate emergency budget, it was £10,000 as due, so there's still a bit of money left
Right.
with which the climate emergency committee can do something else.
So you're not suggesting that we give that £2,000 balance on their request from this committee? That we actually reduce their...
That would be good, I suppose.
I mean, I'd quite like them to get the 5,000 really, however we can do it. Is it possible to split it between?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I do
Well, we could do it that way if you want.
I don't think it feels like an asset, so we could just split it 50-50 and say, mates no weird, we're just messing with it, but
Yeah,
I'd like to see it.
Okay, split it half and half, then.
50,
Yeah, do that.
50,
Do that. Okay.
So the committee's decided to, it gives its full recommendation, we're suggesting, we're agreeing we're going to fund 2,500 from our budget tonight with a positive recommendation to the Climate Emergency Committee to find the balance from their pots.
Yeah, they are a new group as well, I think they're
Yeah.
so I think that's really positive too. We'll have to speed up.
Are they union or are they, don't they operate, you don't mean they're new, they've had that building in the middle of the...
No, I mean, well, they say they haven't had a grant before.
Oh, they're new
Yeah,
to us, yeah.
I think that's, yeah.
Okay. Holly Silk Band, with some shocking images.
Oh, yes.
They got cold holding on the floor.
Had a big meeting.
So I think I made quite a clear case that there wasn't an issue. I mean, again, I felt this hits the criteria in that it's it is an asset. They need a floor.
It's all about, it's a play through.
But again, they do have reserves of more than their expenditure. But again, I've not really. They do make reference that it's part of an ongoing refurbishment programme that they're looking to do for their own funds. So I'm not sure if any of those reserves are in restricted funds for building works, but
I'm happy to support.
Let's just go with it.
yeah.
So the £5,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
You okay with that?
Yep. So supported it full. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best for that. Holly Players is the next one.
Yeah, so we did get so in the pack that I sent out, it's 5,000, but they did send a revised one which was for less money but targeting specific items in the kind of shopping list. So I think it's 4,800 they've asked for that one you've got council.
Yeah. So the revised one's 4,824.
This is PA systems.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually stood outside Honley Library after a meeting talking to two members from this group. And it's clear they've had a huge amount of issues with this building anyway, and lots of repairs and issues with water damage and other things, and they've soldiered on over COVID, so they have had the challenges. Again, I didn't think their reserves were necessarily excessive with what they're doing. And I can understand their argument, and I guess if they get this, it does feel like a lot of money to spend on a sound system, but I don't know what sound systems cost. I'm assuming they think they need this for their performances, and also so they can use it for but if they can diversify their offer and use the space for other things, because I was actually talking to them about that very thing about can they generate income through doing comedy nights or other things. So I think it would give them a bit more flexibility.
Having never been inside, is it like a theatre with like flip down
I've
seats?
never been inside either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it, right, I assume it is, but.
And then
it's a bit
Much more specific than that.
It's,
Yeah,
it's 4824. And well, you don't need to know the full cost, I guess, but the full, their new revised cost was 6,936.
So how much have you granted?
4824.
Full request.
4,824. And just be crystal clear.
Okay, this issue was, the next one's from the Scots Cricket Club. What's clear, and we may see more of these coming through, is partly because of the success of the women's football,
Yeah.
and also the coverage that women's cricket are getting as well now. That's providing a bit of a challenge for these clubs that are not used to having women on premises.
Yes, that's right.
So, you know, it's an admirable thing that they're trying to achieve, isn't it, really? I guess the question for us is, are we thinking we want to support this, and to what extent? Happy to take comments from everybody.
I mean, I think we should support it to its extent as we can. It's kind of, the last grant they had was 2007, was quite a long time ago. And this is a small element of the total cost, isn't it?
It's £80,000 worth of work. So
£80,000 worth of work, yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Yeah, I think these things, they're a massive part of village life, aren't they? I know that sounds a bit a naff thing to say, but you know, you want to keep these institutions going and opening them up to new use or some things. And also, I think the facilities.
That's quite a high quality facility there, isn't it?
I've never been to the management team there.
Nor did I, but I've been there in the past. You know, it's a nice little house. It's not-
Yeah, that's right. It had the chippings, the exhibition there. It's a pleasant room.
So I think it is used for, because I went there for a party years ago, so it was, you know, it is used for other things. So I'm fine with that, yeah.
So the next one, and I'm going to seek clarity on this from Rich, because
So we awarded them £5,000.
Yeah, I mean, what they basically tried, they were trying to get that through as a project, and I was a bit iffy about it being a project, because it just seems like a slightly,
you talk about
Yeah.
the second one's
Yeah,
the nets,
yeah,
which is the nets.
as if they were trying to find a way around our £5,000 limit. I don't think it's a project,
No,
I think it's an asset.
What?
I'm
Yeah,
not
that's
so-
interesting, because I've gone the other way with. This is
Maybe
this
we
is
should,
a
maybe
further
we
issue
should
about what we need
just
to
scrap
that's working
these
group.
categories, because some things really don't fit in.
Well,
So
that's
I
true,
think
we
it's-
definitely need to give it thought.
We need to
yeah,
have
yeah.
we need to
But then there needs to be a
revised
thing
anyway.
as to how much
Yeah.
money you give them, because I don't think we give £5,000 to an event.
I think this is a classic. So the £1,000 grants, the scheme that's up to £1,000, is that badged as community events and projects? Or is that, because I've always in my head just thought it was our small grants,
Events and
which is
projects.
very, so we actually, like, this is something that the grants working group need to look at. I mean, I think the
No,
issue really is
absolutely.
whether we would accept 2 applications in 1 year from one organisation, even if they're going through 2 different pots, because they're sort of.
You can do, it's down to you to use your discretion either way, it's a deal with it as you see fit, really.
So we could, if we decided, if the majority view in this committee was that it could be funded as a community event or project, I think it sort of feels like it is a community project to me, any more than
I mean, normally the events,
uniforms for a brass band are.
normally the events though are time limited things like a festival. This is a, I mean, it's not to call it permanent, but it's permanent in the way that an asset is permanent.
To be honest, play free nesting, that's critical to them being able to play cricket.
Yeah,
They need to be able to find funds to do that.
we're back to the Holly side screens again situation, aren't we?
It's community assets, under community assets, isn't it? What's highlighted.
Yeah, but I don't
Yeah,
think.
that's me making that. That's me making that.
And was that, and did you do that?
I made that call. They were trying to put it through as a project, but I don't think it is.
No, it is an asset, it would be an asset, but I don't think we should give them more, because we've just given them £5,000 towards.
Well, I think
Email change.
I can certainly see the logic from what Rachel's just said.
You can propose the opposite, Councillor. It's Totally up to you. There's only Councillor Blackie you've got to convince.
I put this down with a question mark because I wasn't having thought we should fully support the previous one. I'm not so sure about this one. Really.
Well, I think if they've had £5,000 worth of support this evening, which is the maximum that most groups are going to get tonight, it seems legitimate to not support this on that reason. If they'd only come for this, or they'd come for this and
Yeah.
a couple of thousand towards something else.
I think that's good.
Okay.
Okay.
So are we clear about the rejection reason that we are saying that it's because the committee felt that they'd already had £5,000 out of the community asset, and we felt that because of the nature of these nets, they were
It is a long-term
affecting part of the
asset.
infrastructure of the building.
Because they're saying they were replaced 10 years ago, so they're obviously expected to last another 10 years plus.
Okay, now we've got another application from Upton Village Hall without, we can't fully remember without looking at it again, but they have had
They've had a lot of
support
money.
over the years,
Yeah.
because there's been a lot of issues with the building, hasn't there, and they've now got another ongoing issue.
Last September, 3,000 for damp proofing and roof insulation. Previous September, 5,000 towards replacement of windows and doors.
Yeah.
Fair as well, when it has, hang on, how much they apply for again? £5,000. Because they have not insignificant reserves. I know they're saying that they're not massive reserves, but in terms of their income versus their expenditure, their income was quite healthy in 20 to 21, albeit it was COVID and stuff, but, I think we've given them we've given them £8,000 in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not averse giving them
3.
a couple, but not 5,
£2.
maybe 2.
3.2.5.
There's no,
I'll advise you, 2.6. There's different elements to it, though, aren't there? It's not just
well, I'm not sure if they've got a breakdown on the,
it's more of a breakdown.
I can't see anything.
No, it's just,
Less
it's
rooms,
not
no.
thinking about it. Materials and
I
labour.
think there is going to be certain quotes for the works. And I think, oh yeah, here we are, we have got quotes. Contractors. Well, there's some work on,
You could give them, you could, for an example, give them enough to fund one of those
Yeah.
things.
to fit to above the kitchen to basically make that watertight, which is taking the copings off, fit new waterproof membrane, repoint, rake off the soft areas, it's all quite specific. That comes to
Are there
£2,000.
multiple quotes or just one quote there?
Is that the one they've gone with? Because that looks similar to the figure that they've put at the bottom.
I just think they haven't applied for any other grants to fund the project, so they have to be very imaginative, they just keep coming back to us. It's a big style.
Is there more than one quote there, or is that?
That's it, isn't it?
Three comparable quotes, it says,
Oh right, there's more. I mean,
in your project.
so you can't really go on.
They use that.
You can't really go on that basis.
Well, actually, interestingly, one of the quotes actually is coming at 4,000.
One goes a lot cheaper than the others.
One's 4,200 including VAT, one's 6,700, one's 6,200, and they've basically put the project cost at 6,500. So arguably, if they went with a cheaper quote,
Yeah.
Why
which just
don't we
seems
give them a
to.
contribution of £2,000, and then they need to look
Well,
elsewhere.
Okay.
Fill the rest.
Mary, thoughts on that
I'm
proposal?
happy to go with 2,000. And they should be encouraged to look elsewhere as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
because you like the councillors and others do model forms and stuff, and I think there is other places there.
There are village
Go to.
grants
Yes,
funds
there must be.
available, since we get that newsletter that Jenny sent as well.
So, just put it up to 2,000, well,
Yeah.
at 2,000.
I mean, they'll have had 10 grand from us in 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
nice and reminders.
Okay, the next one we've discussed, which was the Waldale Community Association, which is getting put to the committee. Then we're on to Waldale Wanderers, who are another football club, and another request for a women's toilet and kitchen.
And kitchen, just to balance it out.
And it's also worth noting, I think, that about opening the facilities to the allotment society.
Yeah.
Quite a good application.
So I'm assuming they've got a building at the back of the co-op, is that right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, Brick
I've never seen that.
It's also nice to host a meeting, parish council committee.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Very enthusiastic.
And do we think these have they received any?
I don't think we could really
So new applicant to us.
They've got a renewed video.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a good application.
It's like the pictures of on the council. I thought, oh yeah, that's great. It's quite good what people put in that sort of thing. They look like they care. Oh, and they want us to open it as well.
I'm hearing positive noises.
Yeah, I think we should support it, yeah.
Okay, so-
491.
So we'll fund it in its entirety.
We give them 35p.
Maybe we could put a parish plaque in the women's toilets. We haven't got any plaques or funded by, you know, like lotteries sort of stick things.
That's an idea. Tell the pubs and comms committee that
We should.
that's what they need to do.
Well, actually, I think the only place there is one, I believe, is Haydedge Football Club, which I think have one, because I remember seeing a picture of one. I've never actually been to the pub, I've been driving past. But yeah, there is a, I think, yes, there is something to be shown, but we're giving quite a lot of money
Yes,
to lots of
yeah.
organisations, and there ought to be a,
And so, you know, some organisations do say, can you send us a crest to put on our, you know, whatever. But I think having our own thing is probably a good idea.
Because we don't make any requirement, do we, to be mentioned in publicity, do we?
could we have a plastic plaque? It wouldn't be that expensive, would it? Nice
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
No, that's a really good idea.
We've got all the artwork for the toilet sign, haven't we? So it's only a matter of.
Yeah, but we wouldn't want to do a cast iron plaque, would we?
No, I mean, up by our toilets, that's
Oh, is it? Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
sort of cheaper version of the sign, isn't it? With the parish council thing on it.
Yeah,
So we-
yeah, because that was only 30 quid.
We can. I'll get Jen to look around for them.
Could we refer that to the next question? You can. I guess we need an indication of, how many we need. Feels like people were giving multiple thousands to.
Yeah.
We'd only give them one plaque.
What?
We'd only give them
Yeah, they
one
don't get one
plaque.
for every £1,000. So just, no, it's just mean you want something that they can. We need to know whether we'd be needing 20.
Right. So this one, councillor, is a bit messy because I think it's more than one budget pot. Some of it seems to be asset, and some of it seems to be service or project.
And also, they've also got a further application from the community trust. I know a little bit about this organisation because I'm working with.
Does anybody know the relationship between these two? There's nobody from here.
Well, they're all-
Well, yes, I do know, 'cause I'm
You
working
do
with them. Basically, Honley Village Community Trust, the organisation been in Honley for a while. Historically, their main business is looking after the outdoor space at Magdale, which is the ponds and wetlands and all of that type of stuff. But they've also they asset transferred the village hall, which is the white concrete building near the roundabout, from under the banner or the wing, if you like, of the community trust. They've spawned at least two other projects. One's Honley Youth, and the other one's Friends of Honley. And Friends of Honley are primarily, as I understand it, without checking whatever in here, they're a bit like Home Pride, I suppose, in that they do litter picks and tidy ups, and they do organise community clean-ups and other things, and I know they've been doing that in the past. So they're sort of all managed under the banner of the community trust, but they are distinct gangs of people that do it, which is the problem in terms of that we're basically looking at the income and expenditure from what's primarily the village hall and the outdoor space, and a lot of it's, well, as it says here, tied in with dam repairs and contingency for the property itself. So that money isn't necessarily available to Friends of Honley, although it does look like it's there on their mother parent organisation, if you like. So that's why it gets a bit, yeah.
Well, I explained the dam because I couldn't understand, because both of them got in a contingency, they've got need for dam repair, and I thought, well, there's that, but if it's Magdale, is that where the dam is?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that makes sense, thanks.
People seem to call ponds around here dams. So a lot of
Yes, it's like it
we don't call dams, and that's not what I think is a dam. But.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it's
we have given more than one grant at the same time to the same organisation. We gave 1,000 for the when they're doing something with trees and seed planting last year. There was 1,000 for that, and then we treated one where they were in sequence, the two of them, husband and wife, and we gave 1,000 to each. So it's not unheard of for us to fund both.
So at the moment, they've put in one that's for this village tidies and bits and bats, which is nearly £5,000, and then the other one they've done is festive activities, which is more of that's a sort of start and finish
Projects,
project.
yeah.
So they will be out of different budgets.
That's fair point.
In this instance.
And they've had money from the youth provision pot as well, Jen, presumably.
Yeah.
on the youth and
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
How much
they're
do
sort of
they
like
get
an
for that?
umbrella organisation.
Yeah.
This year we only, because we haven't got the money we needed, we funded them probably I think
Oh, right.
2.5.
Oh yeah, that's right. 238,750. Yeah.
So it's really had to what extent. I was just surprised at the cost for the monthly village tidy, because it seems a lot of money for maintenance tools and safety vests when they're already doing this stuff, and I've seen them out in their vests.
You don't have to give them it all.
Yeah.
You can pitch it back.
And the seasonal planting again, I mean that could be, you know, if we were to reduce it, I don't know what seasonal planting. Well, I know they do the hanging baskets outside the village hall, but I'm assuming if it's seasonal, that sounds like it's not bulbs, it must be. Do they plant up with like wallflowers and primroses and stuff like that in the beds?
These wooden trough wooden trough planters as well. Do they said anywhere where they're going? Is this round village hall or is this all through the village?
It says 2 new wooden planters with wooden signage, plant materials, in celebration memory of key residents and a caring on the community. I think there's already some planters around because I'm pretty sure I've seen them. I'd imagine they just want to extend what they've already got. It's the same, I don't know if you've driven through Lintway, but Pride and Lintway have got quite a few planters that made. I mean, it does brighten the place up without doubt, whether it's an asset in.
I can see plants as being more of an asset than I don't think we can really pay for maintenance of village street furniture. No, but then they've got to fund it from somewhere else.
I split it into two bits. The planting and the planters, I put down as community assets 3374. And they've asked for 1541, basically from projects and events with a maximum outlay of 1,000 anyway.
I suggest we fund the planting and the troughs.
Is it an asset if it's.
I think planters are an asset. I don't know about seasonal planting.
Well, I think I was just thinking that we funded things like Cinder Hills. We funded their outside space from the community asset pot because it was considered, a built space effectively.
That's the infrastructure of those beds, isn't it, and all the rest of it. It's not the.
I'm prepared to be swayed either way. I'm not making a judgment on it. I'm just.
Although the wooden planters and the buying the tools and the safety vests are assets that can be used by multiple people, so as a distinction from the
Okay.
uniforms we have before.
Okay.
And therefore
mean, I think the figures for the monthly tidy are a bit excessive. I'm just not happy about that, or the maintenance of the village street furniture. So.
Do we need to,
Should we lend them
do
some
we
of
need
our
to be
vests?
specific?
How many vests? We've still got loads of vests. haven't
We've
we?
got,
I don't think
we've
we
got
need-
tons of vests.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we give them some
We can
vests.
give them, we can give them some vests.
Because they are saying it is to replace dilapidated Untitled and
We
How
could,
many vests have we currently got?
Well,
30 or something?
yeah, I think we've got 30.
I think they get quite a lot more people than that when I've seen the
Yeah, no,
photos.
but they haven't got all them all failing at the same time. That's we can replace, aren't they?
Well, do we need to be as specific, or can we just say we're giving it general support of 2,000, 2,500?
Well, I think it would be good if it was for specific teams, because at least when we get the reports back, hopefully, about what they've done with it, because the auditors basically insisted that we get what we've agreed, rather than a vague do whatever with it.
But it seems like am I right in saying we're all most out of the 4 items, the wooden trough planters are the things that we're.
Yeah, but should we do
It's an asset, it's physical. It's
Well, you could just fund those.
Let's go with those.
1,000, let's fund the total cost of the wooden trough plants.
The full cost.
but no contribution towards seasonal planters.
1,700.
So that's 1,000, so that's 1,300. Oh, so you want to pay for all of it? Do you want to pay for all of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
1,310.
No,
No,
1,703.
That's what they said in total cost, if you're quite happy to pay all that.
All right, okay.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Could I'd be quite happy to make a contribution towards the cost of the litter pickers. So that top element, to give them a further,
Well, unless we round it up to £2,000 to split between paying for the planters and purchasing necessarily the
Contribution towards the
and they can borrow our.
And if they wish to borrow our vests, they're very welcome to make them available.
But we
Rich is right. If it comes to writing the grant report, then you need to know what you.
So I'll say we paid for the full amount of the planters, and then
And a contribution towards the litter pickers.
297 or whatever it is.
We've already got some money for that.
The rest things we didn't necessarily consider to be an asset in the way that we
So it's
interpreted it.
ongoing, yeah, it's ongoing.
Okay. Now we're doing time.
Yeah, okay, good.
We'll be here 11, not like last.
Okay.
Right.
So we're on projects now.
So they generally have got £1,000 upper limit. Yeah? Well, they have got £1,000 upper limit. Is that written in stone or is that just folklore?
Yeah, that's written in stone.
Right. Pepper's band. Yeah, this is a new. We haven't. Pepper's band haven't got any money tonight, have they?
No.
That's the football one.
I think we've given them money in the past, but I think it's generally for the building, I think.
Well, we've given over the last, since 2019, we have given them nearly £6,000 towards band room refrigeration, band room refurbishment, and the replacement windows and security. So they have had pretty generous.
I have some reservations about this one. If you put it on a concert, it seems to be you should be covering it. You should be able to cover your costs. And the other thing is, one of the costs is at St David's Church Home Bridge. In aid of the church organ restoration of Hale, and we can't fund church organ. And we've also said we wouldn't give money to organisations to raise money for something else. So I feel, I don't think we should be funding that. So.
I don't think we should.
I don't think we should support.
I think there's all sorts of, I mean, there's lots of choirs, bands, orchestras, almost. Concerts, and as you say, they have to find sponsors or charge tickets. It's just nice to take discounted tickets, but
That's so. I would say no to this one. What do you think?
I'm just. Well, I skimmed this last night, and then when I spoke to Mary this afternoon, she mentioned the same issue. And I'm just looking at how they've broken it down because they're asking us money for the venue hire. One that's actually here at the Civic, the other one's at Christchurch itself. So Christchurch. I think there's issues, as you said, about where the money's going to, and they're paying.
So it's a ticketed event, and therefore, unlike, say, the Arts Festival, Folk Festival, those sort of things, where there are things that are free, these aren't free, so you have to go to all
Yeah.
of those.
And I'm amazed that they think it's going to cost them £1,800 to advertise 4 concerts.
Yeah.
That just seems. You put a Facebook ad and you get somebody to. I really, it just seems excessive. But I do think there is this issue, and I know it's one of my proposals for exclusions on grants. So if you're fundraising for somebody else, I'd rather that third party came to us direct. But in this case, it would be an exclusion anyway, because it's church. So unfortunately, there's a few technical issues with that, but it's not supported this evening. Okay. Then we've got Hainsworth Arts Festival. I'm right in thinking that this was in part discussed at the service provision, because there were 2 elements. One was activity of young people, and the other half was this bit, which is the sort of infrastructure costs for road closures, from what I remember. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So you've given 500 already, service provision's given 500 already.
What was, sorry, what
For
was
a youth element,
Yeah, if you look at the training for music makers and
training workshops for young people, is it
Has
that?
that already been funded?
Oh no, training for young music makers, sorry, it is that one.
So that's the second part of what they're asking.
yeah, so they're here tonight basically for the.
The parade,
Yeah, the actual event, outdoor events.
Have you got your sort of grayed out on the electronic copy?
Is that, alright, is that why I thought we should do 2,000, but.
Yeah, there's 1,000.
1,000.
The 1,000 was considered as part of the youth allocation on service provision.
Okay.
It's activity.
50% of that.
And then, so what the balance that remains that's here tonight is basically the £1,000 request for the road closure, first aid, security, site manager. So they've got £4,000 worth of infrastructure event costs, and they're asking us for £1,000, and that's our. So in some ways, it becomes very similar to the folk festival and other things. Really, it's like £1,000 towards them putting on their event.
I'm happy to
Which I
do that
thought
because
was,
it's,
reasonable.
it's
in line with
unlike the last one, it's not ticketed, it's.
Okay, so we've got no, they're not carrying huge amounts of reserves, and what they have got for the same for next year. And this is, I'm assuming, for the, because the Arts Festival runs throughout the whole year now, doesn't it?
Pretty much.
Because they were doing stuff in the quarry the other week, and they've got so it's not like a set date like the.
Well, I think this one is for a parade on the
So is that next summer?
18th of June. Yeah. So I think they still have their main weekend, don't they? But they now do a few kind of spin-off things.
So this effectively is a grant for their costs for next summer's
Parade.
public parade in the town. Yeah. Happy to spot that for you?
Yeah.
Gosh. Okay. This is effectively a reprint, isn't it? Really? Has everybody seen the?
Yeah, I've done a tour over there and just people to have a look at.
There were a few issues on some other locations of things on there, but I'm assuming they're fixed in.
Can't speak.
Mary needs to. Well, you can speak, but you can't vote.
No, she can't speak.
Can't speak.
She should leave the room, really.
Do you want me to leave the room?
No.
Maybe you should. You should go stand in the lobby.
Face to the wall.
I mean, this is another organisation that's effectively using the accounts of somebody else, but because they're using the tech accounts at the moment. Because I was surprised that they've actually not got their own bank account or their own full independence. So they have got as directors, and they have got their government documents. But so really, it's a question of, for me and Rachel, as to what extent we want to support, if at all, an extended print run.
I mean, I think in terms of, like I said to you on the phone, with this one at least we have a legal power, which is about the promotion of tourism for the town. So there's a very obvious power which we don't have for certain things, like I was struggling for the Honley planters one, to be honest. I had to put that through section 137 because I couldn't really work out where it would apply. But that's an obvious tourist promotion of tourism.
Well, I really like that. I think it's really good. And I like the fact that it's up in the display notice boards in the ground bottom and by the bus station as well. So I think it's a really positive thing. I'm minded these things because I'm not quite sure whether, because I thought they'd be up on display and then predominantly it was going to be kind of available digitally rather than not expecting it to be like that sort of tail off the house now. But obviously they're disappearing.
Well,
I'm not quite sure where
I've seen we saw the small ones yesterday in where were we, Jim?
Oh yes,
There's a
the-
festival.
I've got one.
Yeah,
It's on
you see
Fold
it's on
Out
the
map as
Fold
well.
Out, yeah.
So they, you know, they've
Yeah, sorry, yeah. I'd support them for a 5,000 print run.
Yeah, well, I personally thought 10,000 was a lot, and particularly if things are going to change.
Businesses keep changing, don't they?
Yeah.
That's, I mean, I know they made a few mistakes, missed a few businesses out, but there'll always be, something closed or something reopened.
yeah.
So I just think 10,000 is unnecessary, particularly as we're now going into the winter.
Yeah.
Because I think they will have to print again next year, so they're going to have to think about
Yeah.
how regularly they do it. But I think, personally, I think it's a lovely map and it's a really nice thing to have and beneficial to the town. I do think we ought to make sure we have one after in the toilets.
Yeah, sure.
If or at least on the board outside,
Yeah.
so they film us that board, but it feels as if it could be at least in the window, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I don't think it is.
Okay, so they're saying if we do the 5,000 on £500 contribution
Yeah.
towards £1,000 for print run cost.
I'm happy to.
So happy to support that.
500.
And we assume they're making the change. There was an issue with one of the historic sites on there was actually on wrongly.
Oh, Jen, but
I know there was it was a discussion on Facebook about why they put that there and it's not there. But I'm assuming somebody's flagged with them.
well, people have always got opinions.
But I'm assuming they're partly doing a print run to change business anyway. Because I'm assuming we're going to have a new Edinburgh Wool Mill. If we
It's
have
already
one.
there, yeah.
Yeah, it's already open. Yeah.
Never went there previous, so I should rush that.
Okay.
Okay, so that's they've had £500 so far, but I know there's, the second issue's not out of a different pot, isn't it? So then we've got a further application from Holy Village Trust, and I was copied into some of the emails back and forth around this. So I was a little bit aware. I wasn't actually advising them directly on it, but for some reason they seemed to copy me into their emails. Harriet, the person who's put the application in, is a new member of their committee, and they're keen to basically increase the footfall and community activity on the site. So I understand where they're coming from. The issue with the budgets as before, that the monies that are all tied in with the dam and the buildings. So this is really just a project they're looking to do, and they've settled on roof making as the.
I think one point to make about the audit form that I shared with you. I mean, I know you were a bit iffy about the fact that they were costing it all out to the pence.
Yeah.
But it does mean that they have to do, that costed amount must be that. It can't be some creative thing where they decide, let's just buy X. It's got to be what they've said they're going to buy. So there is sense to that.
So we're holding them to the dried orange slices. Creative receipt for the dried orange slice.
Well, that is how it works. That is how it works. Well, then they would have to give us the money back. That's the point.
I think this is the sort of thing I do support it because I think that it's obviously we've already given that organisation grants for youth projects, and this sounds as if it's deliberately targeting elderly people and vulnerable people in the village, which seems a good thing. It would, in theory, if there's 15 attendees at each workshop, there's 45 people who would benefit from it who otherwise may not get the opportunity to do these sort of things. It's the sort of thing I really want to make sure that we get right on with how it runs and feedback on it. I really think we need to push that on all the people, all the grants that we give. Because I know we ask for it, but I never quite sure how much we get.
I have not. I put one together which I sent out as a lot of tests to see what I got back from parties, and it came back quite well. They did quite a good job with photographs and stuff like that. And so I think Councillor Blacker said we should just send them out to the ones we've had for sort of 6 months. You know, what they said is after 3 months you send it out. 3 to 6 months you send it out.
And it would be nice to, obviously have those on our website, but also, I guess, make sure council are aware of all that information. So
Yeah.
they already do that.
Yeah.
But I think it's really nice that we see tangibly what this funding
But
is.
I'll go back to the ones we've had sort of 6 months ago, and I'll send all those out and see what we get back. Basically, it'll be a variety of quality, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But we'll see what we get.
But again, if we're able to then share that information more widely, then people will hear things that are going on. Because that's, sorry to hark back to say the solar batteries, for example. Great example of how solar panels make their solar batteries then. That's running costs. Great opportunity to share information. But if they don't tell us how things actually turn out, then we can't. But anyway, I would recommend that we award for them.
Yeah, I like this one. I think we should
And they are,
1,000.
sorry, Mary.
I just think we should give them 1,000. I think it's fun.
They are charging a small fee, because that's always my
It's
concern.
charging
These things.
small.
But the fee they're putting towards the running costs of the hall, and I know the hall is, you know, there is issues with them, because they've lost a lot of their bookings in that hall. Loads of groups just haven't come back, and one of the reasons for that is because the hall was block booked for COVID clinics. People have shipped out and not come back, so they've just relocated. So it's actually, sadly, you know, it's turned around a bit a little bit. Sharing members, okay. What's this only for £1,000 request?
Yeah.
Right.
One thing I wasn't sure about this is we'd obviously given some money to the same project last year, haven't we? That's the implication.
Yeah, I mean, I think we might have given money to them twice, in fact. I think we did before, but yeah, this is the same project as last year. I suppose that one of the concerns of this is you know, we've had ones before where it's felt perhaps like it's people paying themselves. So it's sort of,
It's a bit like CIC, isn't it? I mean, I'm a bit wary about, because how many people involved in running our group, it's 4, but all freelance, self-employed is the first. So we only paid per session.
but I know, perhaps, I don't know whether Jen can
I know
you
that
share?
my mum-in-law volunteers, so, and they do have a group of volunteers, not sure how many, I think it's probably between anything from 4 to 8, so whilst there may be the artist costs, people do volunteer their time as well. My mum-in-law's in her 80s, supporting people, you know, like the person she mostly supports is blind and still wants to take part in, you know, an art project. So it may be a smallish kind of group, but they're certainly stopping people suffering from isolation and still being able to do something that is quite specialist in a way.
I mean, say 3 volunteers, so that she'd be
There she is, she's one of those
yes.
then. So
This is one I have actually. I've spoken in confidence about this to somebody today. In my day job, I've actually gone to visit this group. One of the problems the group's got is the group actually hasn't really got a group. What I mean by that is there's not an active management committee made up of volunteers managing the group. They stopped meeting over COVID. A lot of people have moved on. They haven't, although they may be volunteers, as Jen said, they haven't had AGMs. They haven't elected officers. So it's a bit like the parish council running without any councillors and just
But
generally
it's not though in the sense that they are an unregistered group. It's different than you're talking about. They're not a charity that's not doing things properly. They're an unregistered group who.
But they're no longer working to the rules, their own rules that they've agreed that are there, because they've still got a constitution, but they're not abiding by their own constitution. The reason I see them is because they're basically, they've lost that volunteer management, if you like. So what you're left with is a group of artists and a professional fundraiser who tries to raise money, which is, as Viv's laid out here, you can see the applications they're put in, which have been numerous. My concern is just about And there's an email that's come in which is basically saying that they're concerned about their sustainability in the longer term because they've not got the support they might have got from the Arts Council. So even the project manager herself is sort of expressing concerns about their viability. And as we can see, the project in front of us is something we funded in good faith last time and they haven't delivered it. And they're still short of money and they're asking for money for the same project. I mean, why I'm less concerned than perhaps I was this morning is I'd forgotten that this was only for £1,000, not 5,000. But I do think they need to reinvigorate their own management committee, so they've got a group of volunteers making the decisions, not the paid workers.
And it does, I mean, it does raise issues, doesn't it, for Grant's working party, as to whether the group is actually really functioning.
Yeah.
If they're asking for, then it could become very bureaucratic for £1,000 asking for copies at the last AGM or minutes of the last AGM.
Yeah, I mean, certainly if they're asking for £5,000
Yeah,
so you dodge it. I mean, £1,000 perhaps feels a bit easier, but
I'm encouraged to hear that there is volunteers, because I wasn't aware there was actually volunteers working in there either. When I went down there was only paid staff on site, but that's who I met with. I don't know, have you got any views, Rachel, on this?
I mean, it's difficult because they do work with vulnerable people. And it's very positive to support activities for people like, we're talking about, schools, but working in residential homes, centres for adults recovering from mental illnesses, that sort of thing. And I think anything to sort of support those people in society is generally a good thing. I suppose my only nervousness around it is the fact that we've already given some money towards that specific project.
are they sort of stating this is like a sub-project?
Well, sort of, but then that feels just like
Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's only 3 weeks. It's only 3 weeks, which is actually only, as I understand it, that will be 3 sessions. So it's just.
I mean, also I think it's interesting that they say, we're continuing to grow, getting referrals from the primary care network for our social prescribing. Well, I mean, social prescribing is all very well, but it must need to come with some money.
No, it doesn't. Okay, well, that's
Does it not
quite,
come with any money? Not a function.
got me to express my full cynicism on the job I get paid to do. The whole idea is the council, through their community plus workers and the NHS through social prescribers, are basically referring people onto voluntary community projects, expecting them to fund the full cost of their activities. There's no money flows whatsoever from the referrer onto the group, which is a real problem because then they come to us for the money they have to try and. Well, they could charge the participants, who some of whom will have carers allowances and other personalised budgets, but generally these projects don't charge very much to the users.
It's lavishly staffed as well for 3 weeks.
But it's 3 artists on site at any time. Plus you've got
it is quite lavish. And so just to go back to something you said before, so she's saying I've applied to the Arts Council for 25,000 plus, and they would hear by 15th of September.
Yeah,
so
well,
that was a
they've emails that they've been turned down, so they're sort of £25,000 light. I mean, in some ways it feels like you could almost be funding the last 3 weeks of their activity.
Yeah.
And if you look at the amount of other places they've turned to that have been, mostly
Sorry, I've just
unsuccessful.
read it. Probably says we plan to work for those 3 weeks with children from the NAB. To be honest, if it's not, given their being specific about the fact they're working with children at NAB, not some of the other, I'm not saying children at NAB aren't important, but I'm less bothered about them missing out on that opportunity versus some of the more vulnerable obviously otherwise do work with. So I'm minded not to support it.
So where's the to detail of that, Rachel?
Well, in the big packet on page 116, the bit before about the group. Just says the grant will pay for 2 weeks of lead artists and 2 weeks of 2 support artists plus a small amount towards art materials. The sub-project is to make plastic bottle school of fish and runs from the 3rd to the 17th of November 2022. Plan to work for those 3 weeks with children from the now Firth Primary School. Well, as I say, I'm not saying it would be a lovely thing for the kids at now to do, but my sense is that there's probably a lot going on.
And also and if that's in school time with school children in the school classroom, then you're in.
Then effectively you are paying the staff for, you're paying the artists to go into the school to work with kids.
Yeah.
Which is,
But it sets a huge precedent.
it does, because there's lots of schools that do.
That's certainly something that the working group is discussed, isn't it? And you shouldn't fund stuff taking place within the school day or schools.
It starts to become
It's just,
curriculum.
it's quite a general statement, that, isn't it, about people who work with sharing memories.
I think if they said they were doing a workshop with a, particularly with people, elderly people, disabled people, or people who were referred from such and such, then I'd have a bit more interest. Now I've seen this in the kids at school, I just felt, well,
That's a fair point.
actually, I think that £1,000 could be better spent somewhere else.
Okay.
Bearing in mind, we are making grant decisions tonight, but there will be another grant decision.
Yeah, I mean,
Towards the end of the year.
certainly
If you could be
reapply.
more specific about whom they're working with, because it's really it's very generalised. I think that seems like a list of all the groups that they have, the initiatives they have taken. So
I think they're going scattergun with all their grant applications in the hope of something will stick.
Well, I think, to be honest, I think that's why Viv's there, and it's why her predecessor was there, because in order to get grants, you have to apply every way you can and be as creative as possible. I think some of the example of it. But my concern remains that there's not a management committee saying, oh, let's go and do a project in school. I guess that was a decision made by the staff.
Okay, right, let's turn that down.
But we're all happy to not support that one this evening.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we move on to another, something I think we need to discuss this in principle. This is the application for Mainsworth Forward. As Rich has already implied, there's not an obvious grant route for it.
I had an idea for how it could potentially be part funded.
What I think is, I just think it's really unfortunate that we're losing the market. They've asked for volunteers to run forward and apply to run a market, which Yorkshire Homefirth Forward have done. But Homefirth Forward haven't got any experience in that, and then they don't seem to have any support in order to enable them to do that. And the council seem to have just walked away from what I think is their ethical duty to help them out. And now they're coming to us for money, so they can open a bank account and get insurance to do something that I think we all think was a great idea for the town. But it's how much we as a parish could or should support in that ambition, really.
I mean, there's two things. I think, because I've asked Rich to contact Margaret to get a bit more information about how much support they receive from Kirby's, which seems to be pretty much a big fat zero. And personally, I think we should write a letter from the parish council to say how disappointed we are that despite assurances that the market service would be retained in Homefirth and work being undertaken to secure a licensee, it appears that no practical support is being given to allow this group to effectively function. Because we're going to run out of time soon, because the market all will get demolished and we will lose the traders. So it feels like we should write a strongly letter just to say, this is a bit out of order, you can't say you're going to offer support. So I spoke to Chris, must be a year ago or something, when he was updating what's happening in the market, and I kept chasing. And he said, no, we'll help whoever it is who's awarded, we'll work with them to support them in every way we can. And you think, well, here we are, we're being told we've got to pay for planning, we've got to pay for, not getting any support with insurance or anything like that to at least get up and running. And the issue is do think there is the potential towards some funding from the potentially from the planning budget under the neighbourhood development plan, £10,000 that was set aside on the basis of not that we necessarily award all the £10,000. In fact, I don't think we should, but because that money was set aside to support the intentions of or the actions within delivery of, if you like, the elements of the neighbourhood development plan and what was important. One of the things that is captured in that in business and economy and placemaking, etc., is about the importance of having community facilities by the market and that being valued. So I do feel that potentially some money from that budget could be put forward to support Home First Forward in some way, progressing. But I actually feel before we make that recommendation for planning to think about spending money in that way, we should write letters to Leeds first and say, at this point we're in this seeming impasse that we're not going to end up in the market because the group that they chose as a suitable licensee to progress the market seems unable to make any progress. We welcome their comments on it. Because I think they've just sort of stitched everybody up with it.
Yeah, and I think if you look at some of the detail on the costings, the council have actually wanted £500 from the group to apply to put on the market.
Yeah.
Well, they could write that off as a goodwill gesture because there's a problem of their own making. To be honest, I support this in principle. I've got a lot of issues with the way the budget's been broken down. But it seems like we're giving them they want £500 to open a bank account, but if we give them £1,000 for planning applications, they've got £1,000 to open a bank account. We spend £1,000, so that's not needed. Unanticipated cost of £1,000. We don't tend to fund contingencies, and it's not specified. I can see there may be insurance costs, and I can see that it looks like there's the costs for the planning process, which I struggle with for the reasons that we've just discussed. But I think if we can find a way, I think the parish could be a valid partner to come in and join the fund some of the things to get it over the line.
Yeah.
But I want the council to be much more proactive. Kirklees Council to be much more proactive and support it.
Well, why don't, I know, going down the route that Councillor Hobley's saying, why don't we go down the earmark reserve routes and earmark the reserve, and it doesn't even need to be for Home First Forward, it could just be for the setting up of the market. And therefore, I know when I was speaking to you on the phone, you were concerned about getting things in place, getting some sort of, that we can't be the people who actually kickstart the thing, which is what they seem to be wanting, that they should be making other, they should get other things in place, and then we come in, we pay for stuff after they've got things started. So I think the earmark reserve might be a more sensible approach.
Am I allowed to speak? General,
Not really, no.
general terms.
Don't. Don't.
Well, could we earmark £3,000?
Or you could earmark a bit and pay a bit.
We can't earmark.
No,
You have to refer to full council. So if you refer to full council asking, say,
So it'd be referral to planning and then a referral to council.
Oh, I see, because
If
we earmarked
it's
it
coming from that money,
Yeah.
it seems sensible.
So hang on, then it wouldn't get to full council till December, would it?
No.
But that's okay, because in the meantime, could this committee write to, full council to write? It's a bit funny.
Yeah, no, it probably shouldn't be this committee, should it? It probably should be council, because it's
well, the applications come to this committee, so the chair, whether Pat could, because Pat's not here for the conversation, but it's expressing concern, isn't it, on behalf of this committee. We've got an application for funds, and we're...
Well, which I suppose has brought to our attention the fact that the market licensee clearly is unable to progress with the moving the market.
Well, the applicant has no bank account, no insurance, no track record, and yet, whatever notice, and I don't know how quickly the market's coming down, to get everything in place to get in place and But and equally, we as a parish, you know, would like to think that there is a seamless transition from one site to another when it all goes. But
Because also I think it's because we have been assured in the past, and I'm sure this is in minutes somewhere, that Kirklees have confirmed to us they would want to retain the provision of a market. It was just the fact that it wouldn't be in the market hall, and that's been a common theme for years. And I think it's a bit much now to effectively.
Well, I know from historic conversations with Chris Carton, because I used to know him as a work colleague, but he's left the authority now. And it would have been very easy for them to actually just come in, deliver some stalls, put some stalls up, take them down again. And for a few years back, that's what was being discussed. So I was a bit surprised when they went down this model of getting a third party to deliver the market.
Okay. Well, so I'll try and draft a in the next week or so, and then that. So can I propose that we write a letter expressing the concerns as discovered from this committee about the future of the market and how she's we welcome Kirklees' comments on what the elements about costs.
So we
what
both
support
support
is being offered.
And then are we making a
So we make a recommendation
to
planning that they consider setting aside £3,000 of the neighbourhood development plan budget line.
So that's held in a ring
As an earmarked reserve, as support.
No, at the moment it's in the budget, actually in the planning budget.
So moving from the budget into a reserve with this name next to it.
Yeah.
Well, not for Home First Forward, but with
But for
market.
Home First market support.
Yeah. Okay. All happy with that?
Yeah. It's drawing, it's just like.
Okay, this next one is a referral from service provision because it came to us, we've got less money than we had applications. That's this is, you all heard about it, I guess, there's been a lot of fundraising, like 5 local scouts going to the World Jamboree. There's been a lot of fundraising. Again, this issue about giving money to individuals is something which is currently up for conversation at the grants working group. I'm less concerned because it's only £1,000. There is 5 beneficiaries. They are doing a huge amount of work on fundraising locally, you know, as a team, the whole team of the Scout movement.
I'm happy to go with it.
So
We've given the scouts before, they do quite a lot in the community for the night of the kingdom.
And I mean, it's just because they've broken it down into £200 per scout, and we've just said training, £1,000 for training. Happy to go with that.
Well, we've funded some other organisations that are more than 5 anyway, haven't we? So. But I do think it does flag this issue of, as I said to Rich earlier, if it was to send a single young child abroad for some medical treatment, that's when you're in, you know, it's a very difficult stage. So I think this is part of it. This isn't like that, is it? So moving on. And this again was, this again came to service provision. The reason we wanted to refer this element here, because some of the stuff, as I remember, was for like cricket equipment, if I'm remembering it properly. But there was an element that was about the shower. So if you look at the bottom of the budget, you'll see shower installation 575. So we thought the shower element was sort of like an asset for a project. And arguably it's an asset more than a project if we're going to use that definition. But anyway, we thought it would be good. It was valid for them to put a shower in for the women. It was not a lot of money.
Slightly dubious to actually use.
Well,
I'm just thinking if it's, for
Or a hot day.
Yeah, but I don't think people actually use it.
3 hours?
Well, a shower, cricket clubs, cricketers not shower? I don't know, I've never.
I'm not saying because they're cricketers, they're just saying like, doesn't matter how sweaty kids get, those sort of things, they will not go and have a shower. They'll do it when they get home. But anyway, particularly because they all live within walking distance, as was said in one part of the presentation, which I thought was interesting. But I'm happy to support them.
Yeah.
Showers.
Is it going to come from?
I think it should come from
assets.
It's the assets,
So making a decision to support to the full amount of the shower station, 575, from the asset element of the budget.
Yes.
Can I just clarify with Jen that we've got similar totals?
Hang on. Be a chance.
Calculate it out. That's proper medical, isn't it?
So I think in the project you've still got 15,300.
Yeah, I've got that, yeah.
And in the community assets you've got 21,189 and 65 pence.
That is correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's quite a lot left, so 20,000 plus in assets.
We have a vote for clerk and deputy clerk for them.
Yeah, I'll tell them actually. That would be painful going back to
Which puts them in a good position next year, because we can still confidently invite people to come forward for grants, and we've still supported most of the.
And actually, we've still got quite a lot of money for event.
Got a lot of money,
Projects.
got a lot of money there, yeah.
So it looks like the next item is we've got to approve the payment of all the grants awards made tonight. So is that just a formality that we need to say?
Yeah, well, normally I would just leave it and get it done at the next meeting, but it just means that you drag on an extra month to pay things. So if we just agree it all now, it gives me leeway to just pay it straight away, basically. Because F&M can
So we're
approve
giving you
payments.
the power to make that.
F&M can approve payments.
Right. We're all happy to do that?
Yes, that's fine, thanks.
Okay, so we need to then note that the next round of grant applications will be in February. We're reviewing them on the 20th of February. And service provision are also looking at grants on the 27th. So hopefully if we can do a bit of horse trading and team and labour between budgets and using maybe the remaining climate change emergency budgets, we can together spend the money. Accounts for payments, you're all with us on the agenda, item 67. So we need to note this, but Chairman's not spent any money. And we're noting that the schedule of payments, I'm not up to speed now with, I'm not tracked it on my computer.
We are next.
We're on,
Yeah, noting W and X is to approve the ones, the bottom. So basically the grants that were given us, the grants which were awarded at service provision.
actually for my benefit, what page number are we on the?
142.
Chairman has to catch up with.
It'll be the one after, no, it'll be the one after that. Oh no, that's right, you were right first time, Councillor, the one in landscape, next page.
Right, so
Yeah, that one. So it's the yellow ones that need approving, basically. So it's mainly the grants from service provision. I can't.
The youth clubs, training, Christmas.
lost it. So.
Yeah, one must be, isn't it?
Yeah, my screen, I've got all the other documents, but that one's gone blank for some reason.
It's all the things you approved at service provision.
Oh, right, okay.
Is it only,
I'm happy to
is
agree.
it only that, Councillor? I can't read at the bottom to something else.
Oh, there's alternative drainage companies, drainage from over toilets and Honley Library, transport, their liability insurance.
Right.
Both of those sound necessary.
So we're happy to, are you with us, Mary? Are you trying to find the post one? Right, so we're already noting these, aren't we, at this point? Are we
Are you approving-
right,
approving
the third
those?
part is we need to
Yeah.
approve the pending months transactions, so that's the thing we're approving now. So, yeah, we're all happy with that. Right, so then we've got quite a complicated agenda item about needing to note the accounting summaries. But we're only noting these on item 1 for August, so there's a whole bunch of things for August about bank reconciliations, cash books, trial balances, balance sheets. Are we all happy to note those?
Yeah.
And then the next bit, income by expenditure by budget headings. We've got some reports for August 2022, which is Z in your pack. And we need to consider whether there's any action needed to manage specific budget lines. And I'll hand over
Yeah, I mean, the only ones I've commented on are the ones that have been there for a few months. I've just left them there, the ones about the insurance, phone boxes and the public toilets, which you do need to keep an eye on. I couldn't really see anything else that particularly needed mentioning.
I think that, yeah, this is one where I think, not the last one, but finance before, when we were discussing the fact that anything that's got like a really high percentage spend
Yeah.
is worth kind of being aware of.
Yeah, because like the public toilets are overspending at the moment, aren't they, effectively?
Yeah.
Then that might, you don't know how much there's a seasonal glimpse in some of these things, do you, I suppose?
So me and Jen had a discussion about the service provision Christmas budget, where it looked potentially a bit iffy, but I think probably it will still be under budget because we were awarding 1,000 to Honley as well, which we hadn't done previously from that budget line. It looks a bit precarious, but we think probably it'll still be under budget by a few pounds.
So basically, your advice is there's nothing here that's
Not especially.
not explained or will
The
be resolved.
insurance part comes back again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so although that's an issue, that money should come back.
But yeah, I mean that's still going to be over budget. We just need to put more money in that pot when the budget comes around. We just need to be aware that we need to put more in it, basically.
But we're in a fortunate position of not needing to be overly concerned
That
about
is true.
being slightly over because we've got a big cushion bank, haven't we, still?
Yeah.
So nobody's going to go to jail for spending the £1,000.
That's true.
If you ever do go to jail for that approach. Okay, so the next item 4 is about the earmark reserves. Are we all happy with that, Marion? So the earmark reserves. What there is it? Well, I was going to speak to the second. Do you want to speak? There's the first part about the community assets in the Home Valley and Hepworth Playgroup and the preschool.
Yeah, I've got comment. I've got communication from them actually.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to ask one quick question, which is the youth facilities and service provision. Sorry, I'm hopping back to the previous item.
Okay.
We haven't spent any of it, but I thought, is that because it hasn't been spent yet? Because we've only just authorised any grants?
Yeah, that is. If you look at the running total, there's £82 left in it.
Oh right, okay. No, that's fine. I just sorry.
So it's more that we haven't the papers that we've got.
Just because
It's not been
updated,
it's not been, I haven't paid them yet, so it's.
no, that's fine.
The meetings were back to back anyway, weren't they? So you couldn't even have updated on the projections. But what we're actually looking at is actuals, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so then we move on to earmark reserves. Rich has got some correspondence from the playgroup.
Yeah, well, I emailed the scout group and the playgroup to see, because obviously these were a couple of years ago now, weren't they, we awarded these. The scout group still hasn't got anywhere. They're still fundraising, but they're a long way off. Actually building the hut. So I just said, okay, we'll hold it. It's no skin off our nose. It just sits there. Hepworth Playgroup have reached a point where they can call on the money. They've done whatever they needed to do first to reach this point where they were going to be calling on the money, and they've said they are looking at contractors currently. So hopefully that will get spent sometime.
So do we need to then move that back into someone?
No.
They just make claims.
You just pay it. Yeah, you pay it from the earmark reserve via the budget.
So that
It's a
doesn't have to be
single-
approved at full council?
No, it's just a single process.
Can I just check, sorry, these were the things under community asset, others in
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
And then the other item here is about this children's playgroup. And I've expressed concerns about this before. I'm surprised that the council. We ring-fenced 50,000 because we were told that they were going to not have enough money to do the schemes. And then they've started the scheme saying they don't need the money, but yet labour costs haven't been reduced and neither would. I just can't believe they can't spend £50,000 on a play area somewhere in there rather. And it says unlikely, I think the advice is.
I wonder if they've de-scoped some of the stuff they're doing, in which case I'd rather they re-scoped it back in and use it.
Yeah. But
I don't know.
I'm assuming because you're quoting what Councillor Davis said, I'm assuming we're in his Kirklees Council.
Hat. Yeah, that's it. That hat.
I mean, I'd rather get something in black and white from whoever the project manager is from the council on the build schemes.
Okay.
Because
Yeah, can do that.
if we definitely don't need that 50, then we need to recycle it into another project.
Yeah.
But I'd still, if we've got the money, I'd still rather it went for that.
Okay.
So,
Are we all of one mind on that?
And there's the Havana North Gap too, isn't there?
Yeah, doesn't oversee that, so, yeah.
Yeah, well he said himself,
Yeah.
he doesn't show.
but there must be some other, if there's, I guess about reconfirmation of all the different play areas that there are, and which ones are getting invested in, because there's bound to be small local ones that aren't being refurbished, in which case potentially that money could be spent making sure that
Yeah.
another one, say the one like, I don't know, down Luke Lane or
Yeah.
Booth House, something like that, get
I
refurbished
think
alongside the bigger ones.
Home Village people were asking about how they could access it.
Yeah. So I guess if Rich could track down the right officer, which Council Davis presumably at least say the right officer to speak to.
Yeah. I mean, my guess is it's a multi-million-pound refurbishment scheme across the whole of Kirklees, and trying to work out what to do with 50 grand, it's almost small beer from where they sit, but from us locally, it's important work, isn't it? Okay, so it's still,
It's still important.
our recommendation is that it still sits in earmark reserves whilst we get clarity on its
But
actual.
it could be something that lies alongside what Kirklees is doing, like the Cindy Hills where we head for the paths and
Yeah.
work that way.
Interestingly, feedback from my son about the new playground at Sycamore Rec School. He said, Mum, it's a good example of a playground that's been built properly for kids to really make use of it. And he said if it's done properly, kids respect it. And he's noticed all the kids who are troublemakers as well as the well-behaved kids actually really enjoy playing there, and they all go to ride early. Lots of people he knows arrive early to just play in the park beforehand. And the only thing that's got damaged at the park was a sign, which he said was literally just wasn't stuck in concrete; it was just stuck in the ground. So the kids, which not my son, they shook it out and damaged it. So it's interesting that if stuff is built properly, and which is why I would rather we potentially, we have funds and there's an opportunity to make something more robust or to do something like that. The feedback from the kids is they really value it. So.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
that's
always the
show
lesson,
off,
isn't it? If you give people good stuff, then they tend to.
And that's what he said.
They tend to
They
respect
respect
it.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't trash it.
Tenancies, as is the private item, is it easier for you from a recording point of view to pull out the end of the agenda? Yeah. So we defer 69. Internal control check, me and Rich did agree to meet, but then personal situation couldn't meet as planned, so we're going to meet later.
Well, we're going to meet next month, because that means Council Carey can do 2 quarters then of the year rather than 1, so we'll kill 6 months in one go. It'll probably take him about 2 hours of jolly afternoon. Fun.
Yeah, well, I was really upset when that meeting got cancelled because it was a bit of a highlight of my day.
So looking forward to it.
Okay, so then we're on to banking, and if you remember, this is all about the move towards online payments and who can make decisions on things, and which is laid all out very clearly. Do you want, well, it's to consider, so we need to consider to approve this approach as to the name mandated councillors for both the HSBC account and the Unity Trust account. So you can see the table on the agenda. Has anybody got any changes or proposals or concerns with that, or are we happy to take it as read?
I know the chairman of council will not want to be on that list, but I think as a matter of principle, the chairman of council should be on the list. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we'll expect him to log on and authorise payments, but I think he should have access and.
So we all approve, we're making a decision as a committee to approve the proposal as laid out about powers of individuals and their roles, and that also goes for the Unity Trust Bank, which is item 2, which we need to wait for the transfer of the accounts to take place, but once it does, that's what is being proposed.
Does everybody understand what those different roles mean?
So you can only set them up.
Yeah.
You two can set them up, and then they need to be authorised by 2
Yeah.
And as you said on here, this does seem to be in lots of ways even more robust than was there.
No, definitely more.
I think there might be a mistake in the table because it says
Oh, sorry, yes, it does. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't spot it.
It's a good job somebody
So-
raised this, Jen.
So who are we missing
Chair
there?
of Finance Management.
Oh, Chair of Finance, yeah, Chair of Finance.
I don't get mine.
By cutting and pasting, went all right.
I've spotted. Councillor Oakley, okay. So we're all happy with that, so that's, if that's that agreed, it's just a matter of you setting up.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I basically need more. I need signatures from every. I need signatures, for example, from Councillor Brook and Councillor East
Right.
for HSBC. Basically, change that mandate first, and then transfer that mandate to Unity Trust.
Good.
Can I just ask, in theory, if all the councillors were to lose their seats, what happens in that scenario?
That's a very fair point. Yes. Oh, yeah. Perhaps that's a good point that needs making. Perhaps.
I mean, maybe there's something around the overlap times. You would expect, even if everyone lost their seats, they wouldn't all vanish off the face of the planet, so they could at least transition. But I just wonder if we need some note somewhere about how that could be
That's a
done.
very fair point. Because the lady I spoke to in another parish council who used Unity Trust and did the mandate, carry it over, that was the problem, that they weren't the same people named, and therefore all the direct debits were null and void, all the standing orders were null and void, it all became a bit of a mess. So, yeah, I wonder if that needs a bit more thought.
I mean, the only thing I don't want to complicate this, but I just wonder if
No,
it would be better to
I know
do
what
it
you're
now,
saying.
but then you sort of think, well, actually in May, there'll be a big, well, there might be, may have a big change.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that probably
I don't know, I just think
No,
it might be think about
I think that probably makes sense, yeah.
because at least you then know for the next 4 years there would at least be some
I think that makes sense.
certainty.
So yeah, we'll ignore all of that we said before. Well, we won't ignore it, we'll just delay it until
Start
start of
of
next council year, yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying
Yeah.
No, that's
to.
a very
Just
good
let me
point.
go to all that work to get that set up.
That's a very good point.
I can't be with.
Okay, so we're approving that, but the recommendation is that we defer it, the implementation of it till after the elections, yeah? Okay, so it's never easy, I think.
No, it's
And if people did all leave in a huff and, refuse to be helpful,
Yeah, well,
it happened, couldn't it? Then you're giving a real, put yourself into a massive hole. Although you can still pay things without using, or can you?
Well, nobody checks me, I do what I like,
You still got to check on that question.
I've still got a checkbook, yeah.
So we have got an old fashioned analog worker,
Yeah.
like a checkbook. Okay, next, nearly last item, financial records for the website. So we're noting that the annual governance accountability return, which was glowing positive, wasn't it? Was part of the website. So we're all happy that that's on there. Utility aid, to note that the uphold with the energy broker was that our current supply was not being forthcoming.
Did they
What's
say
we
what
noting
they
on which?
It's just been useless and awkward,
So these are the bills that we pay on.
On overhead toilets.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the only one that's our responsibility, effectively. Yeah. Okay, so nothing more we can do about that other than leave.
No, they sort of they decided not to quote anything yet because of all the stuff that was going on with, with the government giving different opinions about tariffs and so on and so forth and payments. So I'll give them another contact between this and the next meeting and see if we can actually get somewhere with it.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. I bet their friends are ringing off the hook at the moment with everybody that will be.
Yeah, fair point.
And also the lack of clarity that still seems to be there from what the government might be doing or not doing in Okay, so positive stories, publicising the work of the parish council is the next item.
Well, obviously we publicise all the grants. So I publicised the last lot of grants yesterday.
I'm just seeing if there's anything else. I mean, that's the big news story, isn't it? I can't think there's another story actually, apart from the positive grant decisions.
It's really good. It's really impressive, I think, isn't it? Just look at the sheer number of organisations that we're supporting and the range of what they do. I just think, I think people need to know more about it.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the end of the public business for this purpose of the video. So I'm not closing the meeting because we're now going to go on to the private item,